Oh, they're not. No, it's too. I never have to notice it.
I hear.
Yes.
I can only see so many people's legs at a time.
So, good luck.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of practice. I know a lot of fun things. So you
No.
a little practice.
Of course, the morning.
Right. It is 9:30. It is 9:30, so we will call this meeting to order. Please silence your cell phones and stand for the pledge of allegiance as you are able. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We've got a full agenda and we have an amended agenda here. And the first thing we're going to do is introduce some new staff. So, Sharon.
Good morning, everyone. This morning I want to welcome Kaylee Lewis to the Waseca County Sheriff's Office. She is our new dispatcher and she started yesterday. So she'll be the new voice on the radio. And she comes to us from Mankato. She resides over there and she comes, has some experience before coming here in the medical field.
Well, wonderful to meet you, Kaylee. Thanks.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome to the team, and we look forward to your steady voice when people have an emergency. Thank you.
Yes, we're happy to have her. And then also just as long as I'm up here with the mic, I just want to recognize that all of our staff at the Sheriff's Office, May is typically a recognition of all of our public safety individuals. And so we recently recognized our administrative assistants earlier in the month or last month. We've also recognized our dispatchers, and currently this week is our correctional officers this week, and coming up next week will be our police officers. So we always appreciate what they do, their compassion and their professionalism in serving Waseca County residents. So, and we thank you for supporting all the work that we do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will open this up for public comment. Anyone here for public comment? Anybody online?
Not for public comment.
Okay. I'll ask one more time. Doesn't look like anybody's jumping up. So we will move on from public comment to approval of the agenda. And we do have an amended agenda, just to make sure we know that. So everybody's had a chance to review it, and I look, and I could tell you what is changed. We had an addition to the agenda. We are going to appoint some alternate members to our Board of Adjustment. We've been having a bit of a challenge making sure we have a forum there for robust conversation at the Board of Adjustment. It's important that we have as full a board as possible there to have those discussions. And so we have the ability to appoint alternate members. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But so that was the addition to the agenda. So I would be looking for a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
can we switch on the presentation? Can we move Explore Waseca County to A?
we certainly can. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, so are you making that a motion to amend the agenda just a little bit further?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Milbreath and a second by Commissioner Christopherson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. So we are on to presentations, and Explore Waseca County is up first. Come on up, Mr. Hanson. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here. So I just want to pause for a moment where our process is. If you recall, about 3 years ago, stood in this spot and asked for the county's willingness to collaborate and be on board with contributing resources to a project that was going to mostly be a tour of the history of Waseca. Well, things don't always go as planned, and sometimes they expand, sometimes they change in different ways. But ultimately, over the past couple of years, the project morphed from just a Waseca specific project to now what I believe to be an incredibly valuable project for the entire county. And that is what you see before you. And it's not just a Waseca history project. It's not just also now a Janesville history, and the other tours are down below. We had a remarkable set of volunteers that have contributed in a variety of ways to also now generate the history of New Richland tour. And these tours, as you know, can be done as a website visit, but also as you download the app onto your phone. And then it becomes a GPS-driven tour. An example would be if by chance you happen to walk across the street to Trowbridge Park, if you had the app open with a certain number of distance of the park, narration would already begin to talk about what you're seeing at the park and its historical significance. So the benefit of this tour from a historical perspective as a history guy and a social studies teacher was incredibly awesome. And to now promote the entire county as the county embraced that was great. But the opportunity existed to also expand it because we are allowed, because of the arrangement we have with this company, to be able to have multiple tours. So the conversation was, well, why not take advantage of that and let's promote the county in a variety of other ways. Thus, the result of all of the county's schools on a tour, all of the county's parks on a tour, the trails, the attractions and events, the accommodations, the shops, the restaurants. And it's become just this, I was thinking about this morning, you could find almost everything that's on all those tours somewhere out on the internet. But now it's all in one place. And that's the beauty of it. And it can be on your phone or you can visit it. So if you're a potential person that wants to come visit Waseca or reside in Waseca, move to Waseca, you have access to an incredible amount of information. And every one of those tours has a variety of different elements to it that make it, I think, unique and special. And it also is so representative of an incredible collaboration between cities, each of the entities in our county as a whole, our school district, and a whale of a lot of volunteer effort that went into it. And I'm here to tentatively declare it finished. And as Brad and I talked on Sunday, it's not really ever finished because there are frequent modifications, right? I know it's a month ago, I noticed that we had one of the shops that was on there that's no longer an open shop in Waseca. So we edit that. And so the value of it is its content, but the other element of it that's valuable is how accurate you keep it. And that's the element that we have to work on, is deciding, now that it's in the control of the county, is how best to go about the maintaining of it. So it stays accurate and it stays valuable for everything that's part of it. And I was even thinking as well, the worship, and we were careful when we did the churches in the county, because oftentimes people change their service times, right? So you want to be accurate in how you go about doing that. And in many of the cases related to the tours, it was click here to find this out. And then in every single place that's on every one of those tours, you make a click on your phone or on your web browser, and it navigates you to that location. That's the beauty of this whole arrangement. If somebody's new or someone's just curious or whatever information you want from it. So like I said, I say it's tentatively because I don't think it's ever finished. I don't think you declare it finished. I think you declare it ready to give to the public. And just yesterday, we began the printing process to print a series of rack cards that are like this, that'll be distributed to every brick and mortar location on any of the tours. So all the restaurants, all the schools, all the shops, all the churches will have a series of these available. And that's one element of promoting it. And that's a decision that needs to be made from county staff, from the board, however approach you want to make, is to decide how serious are we about the value of this and how serious are we about how to promote it. And there is general basic social media posting you can do. We did an experiment a year and a half ago with a 6-month ad buy. I've got a former student who works at Meta for Facebook, and he's loves his project. And so he said, why don't I create a few ads and let's do an experiment. And he created some ads that all of us don't get real excited about when we see it on Facebook or Instagram, but these would be ads promoting the tours. And when certain elements, if you were, those of you that are local and know your Waseca history, it was the anniversary of Dave Kunst returning to Waseca. And so we posted that as an ad. And you cannot believe the spike in visits to the project when those ads went through social media. And it's not just regular posts by individuals, it's actual ads that the frequency comes about. So that's an option that the staff and county can decide. Obviously, it takes someone to do it. And as much as I've loved this project, as much as I've loved working with it and working with my students and collaborating with all these different entities, the county can now decide how they want to go about promoting it and going forward. I meet Monday night with New Richland City Council, and then I'm going to say this without the sheriff hearing it. Then I have to really hustle to Waldorf City Council and then to Janesville City Council, because all three of them meet on Monday night. And they all three want me to come and present this and present them with their rack carts because they want to promote it in their communities. It's a great uniter of the county, and I think it serves a really great purpose. So I wanted to give you an update because we went and collaborated with all kinds of entities. The city was great. Tina actually wrote a grant that got this whole thing off the ground to start with. It's been a really fun project, and it's been really fun working with all of these different entities to come together because they see value in this for our communities, which is about as good as it gets from people working together. So, but you deserved an update, but now it's also unofficially finished. And now you can then take it from here, and I'm willing to still help in any way I can and have time to do. So, but thank you for being the first to get on board, but also once we transformed it from a city to a county, embracing it because you saw value in it for the county as a whole. And so for that, you deserve great credit and appreciation. Questions?
Any questions? Go ahead, sir.
John, you track all the activity on the website.
Yes.
Does it show the people in Waseca that are looking at it, or does it show how many people outside of Waseca County that look at it?
Okay, so I can track the visits to the project. I can track which screens they visit. I can track how long they visit for when they're there. I can't track the origin of where they're from. That might be a bit of a confusion.
If you're pulling.
Right. So I will tell you this, though, that if you go the route of the ads, you can narrow it down with the ad geographically. And even if you use Facebook and Instagram, you could do it based upon demographics. We're going to target this age group. We're going to target this type of people. If you want to do a blast related to something related to restaurants or shops, and you say, well, let's do some ads related to that, and we're going to focus on this, whether it's local or whether it's wider. Yeah, so you can track the visits to the site, but you can't necessarily know where they come from. I think that, like I said, is a bit of an invasion. But the other side of it, you can be very specific as to how many visits, how long they visited. And it's not really publicly out there at all. And we've had, just within the last 30 days, somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 visits Right, some of that's us doing work on it, but others are, our sixth graders use it in their local history unit. So I think it's worth, and this is obviously a very biased opinion, it's worth investing resources and deciding if it is of value. Let's get this out there to promote the county in any way we possibly can. And then see where it goes. 6 months, a year from now, revisit it and say, okay, let's tweak this, tweak that. But obviously it takes resources, it takes staff, it takes those kinds of things to do it the right way. But a good start is these, and these will be in locations, and it's dynamic, so it changes frequently. So people visit it. That's the idea.
Other questions?
Or chance you have any extras?
Well, okay, so,
Not yet.
well, no, I just ordered them to be printed yesterday. So I printed these on our printer at 8 o'clock last night to school, and the printer's not working great.
Okay, that's.
And then, well, no. And then I cut them while watching the Timberwolves game in the second half. So they're not anywhere near as good quality, but I'll hand you these just as a sample, and you can pass it down. So there's a serious disclaimer. That's what will be created in a much better quality as a rack card, and it's in its own holder,
Yes.
and there's 100+ locations where it's going to get dropped all over the county. The Janesville EDA gal, Tina, remind me of her name. Caitlin, thank you. It's very excited about using them in Janesville, Waldorf. If you know Judy Jakes in Waldorf, they are very excited, not only about those, but about the signs that we're going to put on each of the history locations. And so when a person's just out for a walk, they'll see the sign at the history location, and the QR code is there. Yeah.
To the App Store. It's in the App Store. So this is a private conversation. Yes, this is on the App Store. Go to the App Store if you want to download the app.
Yes.
Otherwise.
Explore Waseca County.
Yes, explore Waseca County.
And I would tell you, this is my one regret, and it's not a controllable regret because I wouldn't change it. Because of how much content is on there, and if you go on there, you would see the significant amount of content. We have probably 20 interviews, and I was just thinking about this yesterday. Ed Frederick is gone now, right? Passed away. But he and I sat down and did a remarkable interview and recorded it. And it's on this project of him talking about UMW. That is priceless. That is priceless. And we did that times about 20 with our Waseca history. Yeah, so there's so many, and I appreciate, I should have mentioned this earlier. Sheriff Dulis gave up some of his staff and the drones so we could do some really cool drone flyovers of our parks, of the Marching Classic, of the county fair. So we add a really professional, polished element to it as well. So what started out as just a student project for kids that couldn't get into welding class and did some fantastic history stuff for Waseca has now turned into something that's pretty valuable for the county. But again, that's a biased opinion. So
I think the bias is well deserved.
Thanks.
The project turned out great. I am very enthused about the tentative end product.
Yes.
And kudos to all the students and
Yes.
volunteers
Great.
that have worked on this and for your time. This is a great platform because counties either tell their story or their story gets told for them. And we want to be able to tell the story of the good things that happen in Waseca County. And this is what a great platform.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
See you around, but.
Next, you have a second presentation on the pre-construction checklist for the judicial center. We've got a handout from Michael. And Michael?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just kind of quickly pinch hitting for Mr. Stomford, who had to attend a conference this morning for some additional training. But this was a request that I made of Brian just to inform him, really, as we keep talking about the judicial center project. There are a number of things that have to happen prior to any construction or dirt being moved, and this listing, and I kept some of these, I have some more if anybody wants them. But just this listing just kind of captures, here's some of those things, those punch list items that need to occur prior to construction or site work being done. So that's just really to bring to your attention, not looking for any action. Certainly welcoming conversation if you have it. Nothing major on here, but just for the room, walking through facilities and garage tear down. This is the building that currently sits to the north of the annex property. There's a facilities garage moving, concrete removal, that small little concrete bunker we have it's north of the jail facility as well, law enforcement center that will need to go. Shop demo, that same conversation. Some asbestos mitigation and removal, and then a lot of concrete stuff to move construction demolition materials. So around 29,000 total dollars across the span of all of those various items. And again, these are things we're planning on, thinking about, and have been for a very, very long time. But before stuff just gets moved and knocked down, it behooves us to let you know what's happening. So that's really all this is. Any questions on Waseca County?
Yes, sir.
Did we get any takers on our garage?
We've had some interest. There is still a plan of someone coming to move it. Brian, I know, had given them until May 15th to do so. We can be a little flexible in that. It was just attempting to put a date there to get some motivation to get it done, because these things tend to sprawl.
I've talked to several individuals and it's just kind of an odd garage trying to move down. And
It is
get
that.
Get it out of there.
And that the last individual that had significant interest after doing some measuring realized it would not fit down the alley they wanted to take it. So that, but at this point, we do have several that are interested in it. We just wanted to go to some good use if somebody has use for it.
Does the facilities have an idea what they have stored in that garage where they're gonna put it? In both the shop and the garage?
Yes, I mean, they have some alternative arrangements at this point. They've been slowly getting out of there, but the stuff that is most in terms of the yard maintenance and things, that'll be you could call it a temporary inconvenience, but it's not terribly difficult to trailer it over from the fairgrounds property as well.
My last question would be, is there a time frame on taking down the shop demo?
I don't think there's a specific timeline yet, at least that I've heard. I just wanted to press pause before we get into any of these to make sure we had the conversation first.
Any other questions on this? All right. This is not an action item. This is just for our information and for transparency. We want to make sure that people don't go, what the heck is happening? Just doing some of the basics that have to happen if we're going to be ready. All right. Then next, approval of county board minutes. We have the Drainage Authority meeting minutes from April 8th and the board minutes from April 21st. And I would be looking for any corrections or amendments and or a motion in a second.
We do them as a slate or with
You
individual.
can certainly do them as a slate.
I'll make that motion as a slate.
Okay.
I'll second that, Crosby.
Motion by Commissioner Milbrodt, second by Commissioner Krause. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Then on to the consent agenda. Approval of bills, the 2025 road and bridge report, which was robust as always, and the transfer between funds for human resources. Yes, sir.
I should have removed that from the consent, but I do have a question on the human resources. That 2,600 that we're making that account full, is that end up getting back into the,
Comes back into the general fund, yes.
once that money, it's a timing issue, right?
Yes.
Okay. That was
perfectly appropriate. All right, then I would look for a motion and a second for consent agenda.
I'll move it, or
I'll second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Hargit, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, consent agenda is done. Now, on to action items, and we have a number. The first of them start with planning and zoning. We have some ordinances up here, and we're going to start with an amendment and ordinance 166 on special events. Tina.
Good morning. So we collaborated, planning and zoning collaborated with the Sheriff's Department and Public Health to take a look at our special events permits, what the old ordinance said. Part of the reasoning why we needed to address that was because of the cannabis ordinances that were passed last year. In that process of registering cannabis licenses, it does require them to secure a special events permit. In reviewing the old ordinance, probably the biggest change is the old ordinance said if you had 1,000 people for 8 hours or more, then you would need a special events permit. And in conversation with law enforcement and public health, we feel like that's too much latitude. And so we dropped the number to 500 people for any amount of time. And then as we met, we took into account public safety, public health, and those are the changes that have resulted to the ordinance. And I've given you a red line copy so that you can see exactly what the difference is. Once this has been passed, I do have an application ready to go in front of the subcommittee. It's been added it's in the back door of our geo permits, and it will be accessible to anybody. And we'll do some education on it. We'll have an opportunity to meet with lovely Deb to talk about the new changes that are coming. So that's part of the background of why we thought we needed to amend this ordinance. Did you have any questions?
Okay, I'm going to start with Commissioner Milbrath and then.
Do we have to, in the ordinance, should there be a requirement to show insurance, that they have insurance on the event?
Yes, if you look in the red line, there is actually specifics about a certificate of insurance going to the county auditor.
Okay, that's under K, okay.
Yeah, and I think, yes.
Should it be a certain amount?
We're not putting an amount in there. I did have a conversation with Tammy about bonding and certificate of insurances, but we didn't really come up with a particular amount, but I think that will be coming. I don't know what the requirements are on that yet.
Okay. And then what do we consider a cannabis event? Because you have an event, I should say, there's going to be people there with cannabis using.
So cannabis events, there is a particular license issued by OCM for cannabis events. So in our particular case with the cannabis registration of those licenses, this is attached to them. And with public education, we hope to have everybody know. I recently had somebody say, well, we're going to have 250 runners. And so we don't need that. And I said, no, wait, you need to count all of the parents, all of the staff, all of the spectators, all of the coach, everybody. And if you think you're going to touch 500, you need a special events permit. And that's the type of education that we do.
So, Madam Chair, just to Commissioner Miller's comment, there's an entire manual talking about OCM's guidance to cannabis events and licensing, and they have some do's and don'ts in here, exactly what's prohibited and permitted in terms of an event.
You can't charge a fee, et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into us that's
Over and above what we administer locally, just to give that broad clarification. And it is not devoid of complication, but a lot of it isn't our complication. It's just what we need to do on our end to ensure that they do comply with state guidance as well.
I'll give you one more shot and then it's
Go to him. Let me figure out how I'm gonna say this.
Commissioner Christopherson.
Well, yeah, I guess you struck out all of number 3. That isn't gonna interfere with high school events.
I don't have a copy of the code in front of me.
Number 3 is the requirement for special event permit shall not apply to any regularly established permanent place of worship, stadium, athletic field, arena, auditorium, coliseum, or other similar permanently established place of assembly for special events, which do not exceed by more than 250 people the maximum seating capacity of the structure.
So that particular paragraph gave people exemptions for filing for a permit. And by removing that paragraph, we don't give somebody an exemption. They have to.
But so that's school events too?
If they're out in the county and they're gonna have 500 people, wouldn't you want them to have an emergency evacuation plan? Wouldn't you want the sheriff to be
So they're
allowed?
gonna have to come and apply for a special event every time?
You're thinking about every,
Football game or.
But those aren't in the county.
those are on school property,
Those are on school property.
Oh,
They're inside the city limits. This is,
countywide.
just outside of city limits.
if somebody's been permitted as a sports stadium, they're already covered on occupancy. Already have plans in
That's what I was
place.
wondering. That was my question. Yeah.
This only applies to where we have zoning authority.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not interfering with anything inside the city limits. It's not what we're doing.
So to tie into that, there are events that happen in the county that are high school related, cross-country run. Out at the court, out at the golf course.
They will need to apply for a permit if they're gonna have more than 500. Don't you want your sheriff's department and public health to know there's that many people gathered? Are you afraid that, I just,
Because they sometimes have their regions, districts or whatever they call it, sections. Sure. The golf, because the school sometimes has their golf tournaments.
Yeah.
Well, there's a college that runs once in a while in the county.
Mhm.
I understand having a plan thing, but you're gonna put a burden onto some of these events that could hurt how they handle it, because some of it just kind of, I know they plan out a year ahead, but.
I would turn that around and ask you is, don't you feel like your county staff and employees should be prepared for a large event so that your emergency responders would be on hand? Your public health people know that they need to worry about potable water and enclosed toilets. Don't you feel like we should know traffic management, whether or not there should be a large influx on our roadways? Don't you feel like maybe we should have some advance notice in order to keep public safety in mind?
Public safety is always on my mind. And I've always looked at these events and there's always been reached out to touch somebody to say, what's the plan? But I have to think on this a little bit.
And I can understand it is a balancing act. And I realize that you feel like that it might be a barrier, but if there's enough education and we have a direct contact and publicize that there is, if they planned a year in advance, they can put in an application at any time. It doesn't have to wait.
Sure. The other question I have is staffing, mainly on the sheriff's end. Because if you have an event and in order to control some of the situation, he's gonna have to have staff out there. So to add into this, should we include that they have to pick up some of the costs? Or is it gonna be in kind cost by the county?
It's already in there. There is a deal that if they need to hire extra security, that they would need to pay for that. We increased the application time period to 45 days that would allow the sheriff to be able to regularly schedule his staff that's needed.
Do you have a question?
Well, just wondering, what would it hurt if you didn't cross, or you took out, or kept in that number 3?
Then you're being selective and giving some people the right for an exemption. Some may say, well, you allowed this entity to have it, but you're making me do it. That's a discrimination. So by removing the exemptions for specific people, it's just a balancing.
So you're saying we've been discriminating all this time?
I can't answer that. I'm just trying to make it even across the board. It's applicable to everybody. I'm not singling out one group to give them what could be equated to special treatment. It's not that we've done that in the past. I will tell you, because the threshold was so high, 1,000 people for 8 hours, it's not a permit that has been utilized very much. Here's the other thing. If something turns out to be a burden and they bring it to your attention, it is a working document. We always have the ability to make an amendment.
Madam Chair
Yes.
and Commissioner Christopherson, some of this popped up in committee conversations as a result of places of worship, some special events that occurred that are well outside of our control or ability to control, which is a bad way of saying that. We're not trying to control what people are doing, trying to be aware of what people are doing and govern accordingly to ensure that safety is considered. I hadn't considered like a cross-country event, so it's a good point. Maybe that wants some additional conversation. I know from the club side of things, to hold a tournament, a special event permit is always a requirement, no matter what city it has occurred in, and that's even within the city boundary, outside of the city limits. So if there's other metrics we can acquire from the school districts, is probably the only other major category that we're talking about here, I would assume, that has some impact for regularly scheduled activities, call it that. And yeah, like Tina said, can we come back and make an amendment? We can, but if there's some softening from this perspective that we need to consider now.
I'm thinking about big farm auctions. I don't know if they'd get more than 500.
Yeah, that was Michael touched on the places of worship. I mean, you have the ice cream social in the town of Waseca
Yeah.
at the church. You have larger funerals in Wilton at the church. You have the town hall. I don't know how many times they meet out in the Wilton Town Hall for the horse thieves and detectives. You know, is there some guidelines? You know, are you going to say if it's an 8-hour event or something more than 4-hour event, or there's just some, the lines aren't lined up here.
I have a couple thoughts. I appreciate the idea that this is a working document. And as we do education, and if we adopt it and we're going to have to do education, there's going to be bumps in the road. We're going to have to figure that out with people. We want a process that is relatively easy for them to do. We want our churches to be able to use this easy. We want people to be able to have events. But remember, one of the main reasons for updating this is because with these new cannabis laws, there's some state regulation around that we need this in place for those. And we can say, well, those aren't gonna happen in Waseca County, but they will. So it seems to me that I know that there are a lot of questions around this. I am of the belief that we need to put it in place, then we need to collect data. We need to work through the bumps, because there's gonna be bumps. Like, somebody's not gonna know that they need a permit because they didn't need one before, and there's gonna be lots of that. But if I had a wedding out on the farm and I was gonna have 800 people there, my neighbors would want to know that I did what I needed to do so that if the fire truck had to get there, they could get there. And as long as the process to use this permit does not become onerous, this gives us a way to collect data so that we can understand the situation and better serve people.
And there is no fee attached to it. We're not charging.
Go ahead.
Sure. So most of the events that happen at Farm America are going to need they're going to need a special events. If you go out, if they put it in the place right now, but it's to the east across the road from the Indian Island Winery, do they have events in excess of 500 people?
Yes.
I will say Farm America is permitted for the events that they hold, and they're in a special zone district. They're not going to need a special event permit because they have been approved for the type of events and the number of attendees. So they are covered in not needing this because they've already put in place when they were permitted to handle where is their parking and what are their emergency plans and where do they house the people. All of that's been.
And you're talking about Autumn Acres on the west side of the county. The pumpkin farm out there.
Right.
Lisa's.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that part of their CUP accommodates those.
They would have had to have an operations plan that talked about what's their maximum attendees. And if they've been permitted as a special events center, as long as they're adhering to what their occupancy was allowed in that CUP, they don't need to come in and do this. It's if they exceed, they want to go over and beyond what they've been permitted for. That's a different question.
I know philosophically, we have always, we have as a county usually taken the road of least resistance. We want people to make good choices. We are not big enough to spend a ton of resources on things that don't happen very often. And philosophically, that's kind of where we live. But we need something in place because of the changing situation with cannabis.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just to be fully fair, the 500 is an arbitrary number, right? Just like the 1,000 was. We need a target. There's no like science necessarily that goes into the 500 versus 505 or 499. There's capacity for things and disruptions to happen that are unsafe or regardless of the number of people. So I don't want to get hyper focused from a staff standpoint that 500 is the right number. It's a target, just like we get into with our setbacks or animal counts and feedlots. We need a number, so let's put a number to it and assess. Because yes, it is a living document. I don't want to use that argument as the crutch to say, well, let's just make arbitrary changes for the sake of making changes, knowing that we come back and change it if we got it wrong. Not the goal either, of course, but I just want to be really clear that that number is a number. And we know that there have been a couple of events that have been a little, I don't say out of control to meaning that there was a large implication or something that occurred. It's just there was no control because there was no governance for it. So we're not going to solve that by any number that's applied to this. So just want to be clear about that, that structure is needed and process is needed. In most cities, that number is even less than the 500. But certainly there are occupiers. Mankato, for example, still is at 1,000. So it's not like we're totally out of the realm of normalcy with that number. At a point in history, a separate board determined that that number made sense for whatever reason. And it was probably a similar conversation of, well, this might happen over here, this might happen over here, or it does happen right now annually. So let's go with this. So we're not causing undue hardship. So that's obviously a relevant point contextually for Waseca County. What's happening right now? And are we concerned about it? Do we need to be involved? And we may not need to be. So I just want to clarify a couple of staff perspectives in.
I'm gonna wrangle us back a little bit because we're partaking in some discussion to help come to a decision here. So we should have a motion and a second. First, and
Madam Chair,
yes.
sorry to interrupt, just to interject slightly, with the ordinance process. The first thing that we want to see happen is a public hearing
Yes,
before the board's taking any action. So this one, you're 100% right in terms of our friend Robert and his rules. We would-
Bob today. His name is Bob today.
we'd want to certainly have an action on the floor as you've committed to this process.
Yeah.
Public hearing process, ordinance changes that are a little outside the realm of normalcy. So some level of conversation is warranted.
So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna back up the bus a little bit.
Sure.
We're gonna open the public hearing. We're gonna see if anybody is here or online that wants to give input. And then we will we'll take that, we'll close it up, and then we'll look for a motion in a second and have further discussion. Okay, does that sound like a plan? All right, so right now, 10:16 a.m., we're gonna open public hearing. Anybody want to comment on this publicly? Nobody online? I'll ask a second time. And that's one more time for public comment. And there is none, so I will close the public hearing at 10:17 a.m. And then we will see whether we have a motion and a second to move us into discussion. So I would be looking for a motion.
Motion by Crosby to move this forward.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Krause. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
All right. Second by Commissioner Milbrook. Now we will do more than answer questions. We will persuade. Sir.
Chair, like Michael said, the 500 number is arbitrary. Is there a number of humans before there, at an event, before there needs to be an ambulance per each? So, is it one ambulance for 250 people, or one ambulance for 500, or one ambulance for 1,000?
There is in the ordinance where it talks about if you have X number of people, you should have a security. I don't believe that there is a number for how many ambulances. That is something that we could have a conversation about. But if you, I didn't think to bring in a red copy, but there is a part of it under where it talks about security. So on E, if required by the putting together the review part is physicians, nurses, practice. So there's one physician, one nurse for 5,000 people. And that's what was in there to have on site. And it talks about 2 emergency ambulance with attendants. So we didn't touch that part. happy to make any amendments to this that you wish, because it is your option to do that. But we left that because that was what was in the original ordinance. And there is another part where it goes down and it talks about security, so many security per attendees.
Letter H.
Is it down to H?
The state of Minnesota does have some mass gathering guidance as well too. And it's a good question. And part of what they factor into that metric is travel time to a hospital. So proximity of the event to the closest care facility. So there are some numbers out there to give guidance. This E definitely touches on a lot of that. But we get back to the 499 versus 501 conversation. And it feels a little squishy.
Question?
Well, as long as we're talking about ambulance, and we have a hard time finding one to run to our 911 calls here half the time. And that's just food for thought as we throw that out there. The other, I was looking at the number of staff for security. And one for every 100. I don't know if the sheriff's office can find enough for that.
It's not about the sheriffs, it's about they have to hire. That doesn't mean it's the sheriff's office that provides it. And if they were hiring, they would have to pay. So it's not about the sheriff's office giving them one security guard per 100 people. It's not about the sheriff's office doing that. And that's part of the reason why it's in there, is about not putting that burden on the sheriff's office.
We did something similar on that vein at Courthouse Park for a music event that happened out there. They hired their own security. I imagine that the sheriff's office is still aware and goes by on occasion, but that's just the practical measure of maintaining order rather than the obligation to the event itself.
One other thing, just from my point of view, it should be the county sheriff's office, not county sheriff's department. That's where it's elected official.
Okay. Would you,
Under I.
we can strike that. I will say that in the application form, it has a routing on it where the sheriff's office department needs to be, review it for approval. And I know in our conversation, that email in the system, when Geo Permits says we have this application, it goes to the sheriff, the undersheriff, and Carrie. So there'll be 3 people in the department who get notified that an application has been made. Not that our sheriff ever takes a vacation, because we know he doesn't, but that gives coverage for all areas in the department.
I'm not just, it's just the sheriff's office, not sheriff's department.
Okay,
Just the naming.
Madam Chair, the other thing I'd like to bring up, we talked about this being pretty fluid, and I just want to make sure that it's fluid. I don't want somebody to come in and say, well, I'm going to have this event and I have this, and this in place, but they won't give me a permit, or they're saying I have to follow this. I just want to make sure that if some of that comes in, that we're made aware of it, at least as far as commissioners, before they call us and pin us down. I just want to make sure that we allow people to have events and not restrict them too bad, and coming up with a plan to make it better for them so it can happen.
I think that our department has made it clear in the last year that we're there to help things happen and not to hinder them. And we do run, as our subcommittee will tell you, we run a lot of things past them before things are instituted. We try to keep everybody involved. So I'm more than happy to, we can figure out a process where obviously, I have to be honest and tell you, if I saw a cannabis event application come through, my first call is to the sheriff's office. I just feel like, there's a compliance effort there. But I am happy to, if you choose to set up a process for notifications on applications received, I'm way open to that.
I'm just saying that making sure that if somebody comes in and says, well, I can't do it because of this, that we're notified somehow that we can't do this permit because of this.
You have a valid concern. I will tell you that we strive in the office that if something's not allowed, we do look for a pathway forward. We very rarely just adamantly say no without providing alternatives or compromises or pathways forward. That's not the way that we do business. It's not the way we do business. Yes.
I think we already have a path for this in terms of the community development update that Tina does bi-weekly basis to the board. So let's just integrate that as part of the update if there's a special event.
Okay.
Perfect, that's there. Let's just include it in there. And it's not a question of how staff are doing the work right now. It's the practicality measure of we're not the ones that individuals call first necessarily, or even second sometimes. So makes sense, and we have that document in place and ready, so we'll just utilize that.
Commissioner, you've been super patient. You still have a question. I'm sorry.
No, did I?
Well, I gotta, like, Bob's gotta do some work down here. You get one question at a time. I gotta do some teaching.
When you started,
No.
when you started bringing up the security part of it, then I thought, I went back to this cross-country event or a college event or something that comes over 500 people, or then they are gonna be required then to have security for one for every 100. Because you took out if required by board. So it's really in there as that is it.
In the application process, they provide a plan as part of the application process. Here's how many people we anticipate being here. Here's how many cars we think we're going to park, where they're going to park. Most folks have some type of crowd control. Security officer can take many forms, right? Don't you? Generally speaking, in a school event, they put some staff in the school district in charge of crowd management. So it's just about keeping the lines of communication open. If they present us with a plan and planning and zoning is okay, and the sheriff's department is okay, and public health is okay, and county engineer is okay, we're not gonna say no. Again, that arbitrary 499 versus 501 is it really, sometimes it depends on where's the location that they're having it. Is there easy access? I mean, there's all kinds of variables in any special event.
Other questions or comments?
So I'm probably thinking about this wrong, but it seems to me that we were fine prior to cannabis. And now we have no idea where these pop-up events are possibly going to take place.
I don't think we were fine before the cannabis.
Okay.
And part of the reason is the way the terms were, 1,000 people for over 8 hours would exclude an awful lot of events. But it doesn't prevent what problems can happen. If you park 1,000 people in a cow pasture and you need to get an ambulance past the cow pasture to the event, what's the impact of people turning onto the place? What road are they accessing the cow pasture from? I mean, there's just a lot. Traffic management is huge. Parking is huge. Who's in charge? There wasn't any provision to say who's in charge. How do you reach them if there is an emergency? It's just trying to set some guidelines in place, confirming public safety. We've tied it to Minnesota statute on the public health part, knowing that they have guidelines for large gatherings. They have their own set of applications for food trucks and special events and those types of deals. But it's also about planning and zoning, speaking to public health, and public health talking to planning and zoning, and both of us talking to the sheriff's department. It's just setting a pathway.
All right, anything else?
I think the 500 is too low.
And I wouldn't have a problem with the 500 if we still had some of them exemptions in there. You know, I think there's I could agree with you if those exemptions got steeper.
Other thoughts?
Or crossing.
I would like to see that 500 raised up a little bit, at least in my mind, just to offset certain things that happen, events. But I think cannabis is going to be everywhere, and all these events, and it's going to be hard to regulate unless law enforcement there pushing people. And I don't mean that in the physical part, but just tell them where to go, that you have to be over in this corner to smoke your dope.
I am of a mind, and I appreciate these thoughts. I'm of a mind that we should keep it at 500 for now. This is a process that we are learning, and the public is going to learn with us. I think we should leave it at 500. I think we should gather some data that helps us figure out whether that's the right arbitrary number or the wrong arbitrary number. But if we set it too high, this is a free permit. We are doing a lot of work on the county side with no revenue coming in on it. And part of the reason I'm willing to do that is because it will allow us to gather some information that will help us hone this a little further as needed. But at this point, I have no idea how many times 500 people are getting together. No idea at all. And I don't know that we know it across the county. Our sheriff probably has a better idea than anybody, and he probably doesn't have a good idea either. This helps us. This is a pretty simple way of figuring out what we've got going, and quite frankly, how that's going to change as cannabis changes the landscape for every county in the state over the next 2, 3, 4 years. And I am certainly open to changing that number, but I don't know that I'm open to it now, because 1,000 people driving 600 cars to someplace rural in our county, that is a catastrophe waiting to happen if it isn't well planned.
Sure.
Yes.
But we've got a process in place, so why don't we do the statistics you're talking about in the research and making the change once instead of making this change and then coming back and changing again?
I strongly suspect that will not be the only change that we will want to make to this. And I just soon have some data rather than no data. It's kind of like grading kids. If the only kids you look at are anybody who got more than 40%, well, then you're looking at a big bunch. If you're saying, oh, I'm only looking at whoever got 98 or above, you only have 2 examples and you don't really know what anybody else did. If you set the bar too high, pretty soon you're not collecting any valid data that really helps you make any decisions.
I'm sure, can I clarify a couple of cannabis use things? Like, if this board took action in 2023 to amend an ordinance for cannabis use in public spaces. So I just want to clarify, cannabis events aren't happening in county parks in public spaces, things like that, that's already prohibited. So this would strictly be a private event on private property that's following that system. Second, this change has been talked about for well over 12 months. The cannabis use provisions in it are a product of that law changing in the same timing that this conversation was already happening. This conversation was happening first. So in terms of the cannabis event piece, that's, being caught in the net of the overall conversation right now, still needs to be included somewhere in this, in the terms of let's pause and not make any changes. And generally, I would agree with Commissioner Christopherson. I stated something similar earlier in terms of, we don't want to just lean on the crutch of, well, it's a living document. We can come back and change it if we get it wrong. We don't want to operate that way either. But there are some things in here that our view need to change based upon what the law is right now versus just the practicality of feeling like we're imposing on certain existing activities. I don't want to make it more burdensome for the school districts either. I do want to make sure that people are planning accordingly, but I don't want to make it more burdensome for existing activities either. And the security piece, the last thing I'll say, oftentimes people refer to these as event staff. We don't have in there that they have to be armed guards or something. So I don't want to get super hung up on that. We got like a miniature militia for these events that I don't think is the intent here. It's the people, as Commissioner Brillworth was saying, like, you got to go over here to do that. This happens over here. Restrooms are over there. Whatever it is, people that are maintaining order and helping to ensure that the event transpires as seamlessly and as safely as it can.
And I will add to that, in the 2 years that I've been in the department, we've not had one application for a special events permit. And what we frequently hear is, oh, they're not going to be here more than 8 hours, so I don't need to do that. And we all know that whether that 600 cars parked for 1 hour or 3 hours or 5 hours, the impact of getting in and out of that parking lot is still going to happen.
Further discussion? I'm going to call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
We need a roll call, please.
Commissioner Christopherson,
No.
Commissioner Hargit,
No.
Commissioner Milbrow,
No.
Commissioner Krause,
Yes.
Commissioner Malter.
Yes.
Motion fails 3-2.
All right. Well, this will have to come back around to us. I would, based on this conversation, my recommendation, I don't know if you agree with it, is this should go back to the Planning and Zoning Subcommittee with these conversations in mind. And you're on the, and who else?
Me.
Okay, well, then we'll have robust conversation there. And work with staff to bring us back something that we can have some comfortability on. All right, let's go on to ordinance 165, Shoreland Overlay District Standards of Waseca County. All yours, Tina.
Oh, thank you. First, I want to say thank you very much. If you remember, it's been maybe a couple of months ago that Commissioner Malter did sign the letter to the DNR, presenting our explanations as to why we wanted to keep some particular sections of our code. If you going back, you realize that we needed to have it approved by the DNR. That is a state statute. After Commissioner Malter's letter, we did get, they accepted our reasons and allowed us to keep in our code those parts. And along with that, we now have a conditional letter of approval And once this goes through, we've published the notice and had the public hearing at the planning commission. We have notified all the townships. We have notified the municipalities. And the last step in formal approval from the DNR is to hold a public hearing here. And if you so choose to adopt it, then we again publish a notice in the paper that we have adopted these changes. We made sure that when it went to the townships, that every township officer got a copy of it, as well as we did send it to the Lakes Association. I will tell you that we did not get any comments back from the townships or the Lake Association for the changes that we were proposing.
Thank you. This time I'm going to try to do this in the right order. So we're going to call on Robert this time. I am going to begin by opening a public hearing at 10:40 and ask, is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone here for public comment? Do we see anyone online?
No.
One more time, anyone for public comment? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing at 10:40 as well. And then I would look for a motion and a second to prompt any discussion we need.
I would move it, the ordinance 2026-165.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Christopherson.
Second, Target.
Second by Commissioner Hargit. Thank you. Now, questions or comments? I begin with just a couple comments. Thank you to staff. None of this happens without a lot of coordination across a lot of different departments. I know our land and water resources was heavily involved in this. I know public health was also involved in this conversation. Obviously, our planning and zoning department, and all the more because the state of Minnesota, their Department of Natural Resources really wanted us to do some things that we are not statutorily required to do. They tried to kind of strong arm us, and I really appreciate that staff continued to work with them in a very diligent and forward way that represents the values of Waseca County. Obviously, we want to meet state statute, but we want to do it in the Waseca County way. We don't want to regulate more than we have to regulate, and we want our language, our ordinance to be cohesive and clear, and that was part of the problem too. So huge shout out, thanks to staff who worked hard on this.
Yeah, I like your comments, and I would also say the same thing, that staff went back and forth with DNR several times. And they stood their ground because they did their research on state statutes and what was actually required of us. So I think they put a lot of time and effort in. So I agree.
Any questions or concerns about it?
Not so much concerns, just the DNR and were they playing nice or were they really?
Let's not badmouth the state agency.
I understand, I'm just asking, it's no different than standing your ground.
Yeah. We went back and forth.
I think that the initial conversation and even DNR couldn't agree on when was the last time they approved our shoreland overlay ordinance. Their records were not. So initially there was some consternation on their part because certain people had different definitions of when was the last time they got to look at it, and we had changed it without that person's knowledge. However, when we worked through the official channels of there's an official channel for approving ordinance changes. I'm going to say that they allowed us to have a lot of dialogue and conversation and explanations back and forth. And I really appreciated the input from Chris Howard and Land and Water Resources. And we also took a look at it from the perspective point of view of what would potentially be a code enforcement or a nuisance, And so once we explained to the DNR our position with Dee's letter, we got the conditional approval came in really quickly. And I think that with that dialogue back and forth, in front of you soon will be an amendment to the floodplain ordinance with the DNR. And I will tell you, the first submission that we did was approved. We got the conditional approval. And that ordinance amendment will be in front of the Planning Commission this week and to you in a couple of weeks. But I think that open dialogue on the ordinance the first time around gave us actually a better working relationship with the DNR, because during this process, we ran into some other differences of what did the code say and what we wanted to do. I was successful I took some training from the DNR, but I was successful in presenting the case to the DNR to have an increase in impervious surface successfully for them to agree to a variance. And so it's about following the proper order, using the terminology that they understand. And since then, we've had 2 variances to impervious surface agreed to by the DNR. So I think part of that was the fact that we were willing to have the dialogue, continue to have the dialogue that makes it better.
All right. Other comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Then, ordinance number 167, excuse me. And this is on.
So in this particular case, if you remember last fall, we had a code enforcement with Gerard Wilmes, which was successfully concluded at that time. Can't speak of what maybe might happen over the winter, right? But through that process and working with our land use attorney, Kirsten Niedergarden, she indicated that we might consider looking at what we use for code enforcement, that our language might have been a little light. And so part of that process has been creating a process and a procedure on how to handle code enforcement. And included in that conversation, as you know, a few weeks ago, Public Health Sarah Berry was here, including a public health nuisance policy, which was then presented to the joint community health board. Is that the title? I might not have the title correct. And adopted there and presented to you. In return, taking the information from the public health nuisance and from the sheriff's department. And we also consulted Land and Water for noxious weeds. And along with that, to kind of maybe just add some clarity to what our code says, tying it to statute or tying it to regulations that we currently have in place. And that's what this is in front of you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to open the public hearing. I'm going to do it right again. Practice makes perfect, right? All right. So we are going to begin with public hearing, and I will open the public hearing at 10:48 a.m. And I will ask if there's any comment. And I see there's no comment online. Any comment? Third time, any comment? Hearing and seeing none, either in the room or online, we will close the public hearing at 10:48. And now we will look for a motion and a second to begin discussion.
Make that motion.
Thank you.
Second by Krause.
Motion by Commissioner Milbrook, second by Commissioner Krause. Now, questions or comments? Commissioner Christopherson.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm a little confused as to the final product here. Because we've got comments on the side. Jim, so it looks like we've got unanswered questions.
No, those are actually have all been answered. And I have to tell you, we did have We did have some issues with Nuance versus Adobe. And what we could upload and PDF through Adobe Acrobat versus Nuance was difficult. We originally had this on the agenda for April 21st and life happened. And so we needed to move it here, and in that shift, we had a lot of trouble getting the right one in, and I'm looking at that. So I will tell you, there are no unanswered questions. And I didn't realize, because what I looked at didn't have that.
So as it's printed here is how it will look, like
Correct.
violations of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta love technology. Other questions or comments for Tina or amongst the board here? I am glad that we are doing some work in this area to clarify our process and to clarify the work that we do interdepartmentally when we have a nuisance. Obviously, we don't want to bother people about things that aren't our business, but we also have an obligation to make sure that people are taking care of their properties and that their neighbors are not in danger because of some mess that they have. So appreciate that we've got a more clear path forward, both on what a nuisance is and how we're going to deal with it.
I will tell you, we've kind of already instituted this. In fact, Sarah and I are going with the sheriff's deputy this afternoon for 2 different code enforcement visits to start investigations. So it's nice to have a process in place and support from the sheriff's department to help us with that. So we're very appreciative, the 3 departments are working together, choosing whichever avenue is most expeditious, and so we're happy with that.
Excellent. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you, Tina.
Oh, you're not done with me yet.
No, I know. Yes, sir. We can take 5. We will have a 5-minute recess. Excuse me. Thank you, Commissioner. All right.
This request for conditional use permit went in front of the planning commission on, April 9th. And, we had no, opposition in their public commenting period. We had nobody speak against it, and we did not receive any negative public, comments or agency comments regarding it. If you turn to the last page of the conditional use permit, second to last page, there shows you the map of the parcel of land. The land in question is owned by Mr. William Hargett, who happens to be with us today. And what it is the land will remain in the name of Mr. Hargett, and it will be subleased to a organization to grow outdoor growing cannabis. It is only the agricultural portion of it. I will also let you know that this is tied to a development within the city limits of Waseca, where the production facility, processing and distribution and laboratory work will happen all in the building that is here inside the city limits, working with the city of Waseca. So the staff concerns that are noted are tied directly to the conditions of the cannabis licensure through OCM. What are the things that they are asking for in regards to an outdoor cannabis cultivation? We do require that any grower who is growing out on this parcel register their license with us. That puts them under annual compliance inspections, as well as specific guidelines for security, lighting, etc. I guess I would say, do you have any questions for me beyond that?
Any questions for staff? All right. With no questions, this is a two-part thing. First, we've had a chance to look over what the planning commission did and the finding of facts, and we would need to approve the finding of facts that has been provided from the planning commission. And then if we choose, we could approve the CUP or deny it. So first thing I would need is a motion and a second on the finding of facts, and then we could have public hearing.
Public comment.
Public hearing.
Do we have?
I don't think there's a public hearing on this.
No,
We,
because this isn't an ordinance.
Okay. Public hearings.
they did the public hearing at the planning commission level.
Yeah, CUPs do a public hearing at the planning commission, and that suffices. I believe.
Are you looking for a motion for the
I'm looking for a motion for the findings.
I'll make that motion.
second by Crosby?
Motion by Commissioner Milbrow, second by Commissioner Krause. Any discussion on the findings? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, then, we want to look at the CUP. The planning commission did recommend it to us.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do a roll call?
Oh, yes, we should. Thank you. Thank you, because we've got an extension.
Commissioner Christopherson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hargit,
Abstain.
Commissioner Milbrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Krause,
Yes.
Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 with one abstain.
All right, now we're going to talk about the CUP. And obviously it's called a conditional use permit because there's conditions on it, which are recommended to us by the planning commission. And I would first look for a motion and a second, and then we can have a discussion.
The approval of CUP.
Milbrow seconds.
All right, motion by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Milbrow. Discussion. Yes,
No questions. I think I know the answer, but this will be the only outdoor cultivation in Waseca granted so far, right?
So far, this is the first one. I will tell you, there is another conditional use permit request on the planning commission's agenda this Thursday for an outdoor cultivation growing operation.
And that would,
Come to you on May, I think it's the 19th.
at what point is it too late to plant it?
My understanding is they want to have things in the ground before the 1st of June. I will tell you, and this isn't related, I can't speak specifically to this particular operation or the other one. But in my understanding, when I was out west and toured some growing facilities, they don't grow from seed. They do a propagation and they grow from the seedlings. So they will have already started and then put them in the ground. I do know from Minnesota's growing season that they are looking at just one growing season and not like a rotation of a double cropping. That won't be because of Minnesota's growing. In this particular case, at this point in time, there's only one grow operation license associated with it. That doesn't mean more won't come. But again, anybody who wanted to set up and grow would be required to register their license with the planning and zoning. And that application is ready to go live once you approve a CUP.
And this future one, that application's already been put in.
They can't put an application in to the cannabis. I know there are license holders associated with the second application coming before you, but they can't put a registration license in with us till they have a location associated with it. So until you pass the CUP or approve it, they can't apply to us, but it'll happen pretty close. They're already chomping at the bit. In fact, I got calls yesterday on it. Pretty sure we're on the line. I'm sure we're on track. And so
That our ordinance or the state statute, I don't know which one, requires fencer, right?
correct.
And that's gotta be installed before they plant.
I'm assuming so.
Yeah, that would be the condition, I would think.
And a condition of the CUP is tied, that fencing plan and security plan are tied to state statute. So that, but my understanding is, at least what's been indicated to me from, for lack of a better term, operators who are waiting to plant, they're ready to roll once approval is given.
The reason I ask that is I guess, it probably would be, we're probably gonna have to look at this outdoor cultivation as far as setbacks and things to make sure that we're in line with what should be done. This kind of has all come forward, and I wonder if some of our setbacks aren't robust enough.
I will say that, I didn't want to bring it up until we passed these two CUPs. That's why I've tied them to state statute. I have done some copious amounts of research. I'll just throw this out there. There are several counties in Minnesota who say that the outdoor growing operation is by right and not requiring a CUP. There are development standards in place. You can do this permitted with these conditions. But most of the CUP work, at least across the state, is really regulated towards the retail production logistics type of a deal. I do have, as coming through comments that we've heard, and we had the initial CUP application, there was a lot of conversations back and forth, and that application ended up being withdrawn. And through those conversations with surrounding neighbors of that particular location, I do think that we need to take a look at our cannabis ordinance and potentially do some amendments to that. I haven't brought that forth to the subcommittee yet, but that's where I'll start it, is with them. I'm hoping to fill the empty chair in my office before I take on any new upgrades or updates to the UDC. We're a little short-staffed at the moment.
I think some of the biggest concerns were, I think I know the one you're talking about that's coming later, but the concerns are, it's a high dollar crop. And how close do you dare spray your soybeans next to that crop, or how liable are you to that? So I think those are the setbacks we gotta think about or discuss.
So I know that that is a part of the conversation when I've spoken to growers. And I will say that there's always been some bit of buffer between neighboring farms. Without being certified, they do a lot of what's considered organic growing. And they don't use pesticides because it is ingestible and have to follow strict safety guidelines. And so they use beneficial insects and nematodes to work with that. But yeah, I definitely, if you're open to it, we would start that conversation in a couple of weeks, probably, before we get too deep into CUPs.
Another chance to learn. Other questions or comments for Tina? Okay, we have a motion and a second. And I know we already have a declared extension, so why don't we just do roll call right away?
Commissioner Christopherson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hargis,
Okay.
Commissioner Milbrook,
Yes.
Commissioner Krause,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulder,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0 with one abstain.
All righty. Thank you, Tina. I think I've taxed you enough for today.
Well, actually, I'm last, so we'll see you
Yes,
again.
are. Yes, you are. All right, next on the agenda is the Waseca County Collaborative for Families. The governance agreement has probably looked familiar to you because we okayed this a number of months ago, and then it went to the state and they said, oh, we gotta change some stuff. The changes are relatively minor, but they were enough that we figured we needed to bring it back again. And we have quite a bit of county involvement in this. Nicole Grams is doing the coordinating for us. We work with Sparrow and Prairie and MBAC, and we've also got a number of county departments that are involved here. And doing in-kind work, so we don't want to assume that without the board being okay with it. So, Michael, do you have anything to add?
No, Madam Chair, you covered well. Thanks for that. I was gonna just mention that this is going to be an easy one by comparison, but you made it even more easier.
It should be easy. We've already done this, and we'll, yeah. So I would be looking for a motion in a second.
So moved by Krause.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hargett. Any questions, comments, concerns?
The only question I have is at the bottom when it says Waseca Richfield Public. Where the signatures are?
Yeah. They got an extra signature sheet in. Oh, Waseca Richfield Public Schools. Obviously, that needs to be.
We're looking at signature pages right now.
Yeah, he's looking at signature pages.
Waseca Richfield Public Schools.
Obviously, that's incorrect. And since, but it, obviously this is going to the school district to OK too, so they're gonna catch that when they pass it.
Okay,
But
keep going, Michael.
Not our page though, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That was the only thing I thought that. So,
yeah, that is certainly goofy. For sure. All
I
right,
think it was called that.
it isn't.
no, it wasn't up in the first paragraph of the,
Okay. I don't know where Rickfield came from.
No, and it also doesn't show up in the current governing board voting members on the last page, so.
Okay.
We could certainly, amend that.
Well, we're not signing that one.
No,
right?
we're not.
That's just the whole packet. It's got all the pages, and like you said, they will correct that upon their own agreement. That first page is the only one this body truly cares about at this point.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that for us. All right. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Then, let's see, on to the next thing. Public Works.
I mean, you want to state your case, Jim? I know how much Jim loves receiving public credits and recognition, so I'm pleased to be able to do that on his behalf. Jim's been with us for, I guess, 5 years now, huh? Came in shortly after I did, and was one of the best hires I've made to date, not excluding anyone else. Appreciate his approach to the job, certainly, the being very fiscally minded. So it's great at finding dollars from both state and federal resources. And immediately came in and lowered the public works budget, which was more than I could have asked for. And has continued to find ways to make that very, very efficient to the taxpayers and citizens of Waseca County without ever sacrificing the project workload or the quality of work that's being done. That has all continued to increase despite the dollars decreasing, which is as good of a fiscal relationship as anyone could ask for. So I am very pleased to be able to make a recommendation to this body to appoint Jim Kohler to an additional 4-year term as county engineer, but as public works director as well.
Okay. Thank you. Before we have any discussion, I would look for a motion in a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Milbrook, second by Krause. Thank you, commissioners. Discussion. Go ahead.
I would just, say that, it's been a good 4 years. We got, I think we've got one of the better road systems in the surrounding county. You know, you go from, if you take number one and go, although that does replacing eventually. But you go and you hit Freeborn County, it narrows up. We've got a wider road. You go past the lake and you get into Steele County, it narrows up. You know, our number 8 there is a better road. So I think they're doing a good job. Jim has got a good crew out there now. And no complaints.
Excellent. Other comments? Yes, sir.
You know, Jim was gonna make a comment. No, thank you very much for your service. You've done an excellent job. And we all appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
I echo that too. Thanks, Jim. Whenever there's a question or any phone call, he's right there. I don't know what he drops to answer the phone, but hopefully he picks that back up too. Thanks, Jim.
All right. I would echo those comments and yeah, going north too from Waseca into LaSource County. Roads narrow up. I don't very often have to drive wide things down the road anymore, but it's usually easier to do in Waseca County than some of our neighboring counties. So appreciate the responsiveness. And I just got a compliment at church 2 days ago about the great job on the ditches, how much improved the ditch maintenance is as far as mowing and getting rid of trees, and high praise. Somebody was super excited about how much better that is. And I know that makes snow plowing easier and doesn't catch things on the road. So it's good for us too, but people are noticing. So thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We look forward to continued good work and collaboration.
Now you're locked in, right?
There's no getting out of it now. All right, next on the list is the tax abatement, a conditional approval of transfer of project and assignment of tax abatement agreement. Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair and members. I'll just tee this one up here and then involve a couple of our partners in the conversation as well. But I've had the opportunity to work with David McNamara over the last week and change, just kind of introducing some local community development conversations that are exciting, and we want to be a part of it if we can. Thankful for Mr. Berry being here today and talking through some of this process as well. Mr. McNamara is online as well if the board has any questions for him or if he feels the need to comment upon some of this transition to UFP Real Estate LLC. But history of this is the county board has approved 2 separate economic tax abatements for buried pallets in the past. And the most recent agreement, which was implemented in 2020, does have an allowance, as I called out within the section here, 4.05, the ability at the board's discretion to transfer a project and or assignment of agreement to another company should an acquisition be done. So the staff would recommend utilizing this. What we're doing and ultimately what we're asking today is essentially a preliminary approval to do this. The actual acquisition date isn't for a couple of weeks yet. So allowing the companies to do their due diligence in that closing process as well. But this at least gives that sense of comfort that the county is on board with this process. We are willing to transfer the remaining duration of this agreement to the UFP Real Estate LLC company. And so, Richard, you can certainly come up if you'd like to offer any commentary from your perspective. And David, I'll offer the same to you in just a moment. So.
We sold our business here. It's the UFP Universal Forest Products. We close it on May 18th is our closing date. So been doing this for 37 years. So I just want to thank the county board. Years ago, I got a conditional use permit when I was out in the rural Waseca, but it was greatly appreciated that they approved that. And then this abatement, it greatly helped us to go where we are today. It kind of helps down your expenses. When you build a brand new building, you got a lot of costs, and this abatement really helped us out. So I want to thank the board for all this. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. McNamara, anything else to offer in terms of comment?
Sure. Thank you to the board and everyone for their time this morning and consideration of this. As Richard said, Universal Forest Products is slated to acquire buried pallets We do want to share that the objective of this is to help UFP to grow in its pallets business, and we'll be continuing to operate this facility in conjunction with the Berries, with Curtis staying on to help ensure a seamless transition, and hopefully, as I had spoken with Michael, continue to expand this facility to grow the employment of this facility in Waseca, and continue to be a active participant in the community.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you for any questions or comments.
Okay. Let's start with a motion and a second, and then we can have some discussion.
The agreement or
Transfer.
transfer, yeah.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Christopherson.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Harder. All right, comments?
I have a question.
Yes,
So-
absolutely.
This started, the first abatement was 2014 to 2023, and the second one started 2023 to 2032.
Yes, it sounds correct. I don't have it in front of me. I apologize, but yes, I believe that sounds correct.
Okay, it's just, yeah. Section 3.01 was the original. Page 208. I just, so we had re-looked at it, or it was more than a 10-year to start with?
Didn't he do another edition?
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Expansion.
second abatement was for the addition.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's exception.
So within the body of the statute itself, they can't exceed 20 years, but they can have any other arrangement aside of that too. But yes, you're correct. The expansion that was happening out there, the Allen family, or Berry family came back and requested additional consideration there.
okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Karen, did we make the job and wage goal? How many employees are there now?
Probably 75.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Other comments, questions? Small places don't often have the abundance of tools that larger places have to encourage businesses to come and build and grow. And we appreciate the Berry's family commitment to Waseca County over the years, and we want this business to continue to flourish here because it's good for the business and it's also great for our community. So this is one way that we can help make that happen and encourage growth, and we thank our staff that interacts with our businesses and makes that happen, and we're excited to continue to watch the business thrive. So we got a motion, we got a second. Any other questions, comments? Sir?
Congratulations on, you started out as a small business, out at the farm.
Yeah.
And then over 37 years to grow it into what you have now. That's a real compliment to you and your staff and family. So, congratulations.
Yeah. All right. I'll call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the company. They're lucky ducks to be working with you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, here we go. Guys, we're honing in. Thanks for everybody's patience. We are now at item H. We want to recommend the appointment of a couple of alternate members to the Board of Adjustment. Go ahead, Tina.
As you may remember, our Board of Adjustments consists of 5 members. And sometimes when you have a small board, And life happens that we run into an issue of trying to make quorum. Because if even one person is absent or two people are absent, we're right there on the ledge, so to speak. State statute does allow for this small board in order to appoint a alternate member. I will say a couple of times, 2-3 times, and since I've sat in this chair, we've had to cancel because of not being able to have enough members present. Different than the planning commission, which has 7 members. It's a different because there are more people that allow for life to happen, and so it's not as critical when one person is not able to make it. Board of Adjustments handles variance requests, and through that, it's important that more than just 2 or 3 people make a decision when it comes before them. And the 2 names in front of you have graciously agreed to an appointment through the end of this calendar year. And from then on, there will be an appointment on an annual basis, just as we do for the rest of the members of the boards to come to you in January for reappointment. And I would stand for any questions. Sir?
Yeah. Tina, do all of the board members have access to the internet for the electronic file?
Yes, sir, but I will tell you, Pop Ekstrom, we do snail mail him a copy of it, but we send text messages, and then if we're not able to mail something to him in a timely manner, we do send it to his place of business. And so there is electronic access, everybody has. And then when it comes to a meeting, we print out the packet, and it's in front of them in paper as well as on the monitor when we review staff reports. So we try to make it accessible in the manner that the board member tells us that they're most comfortable with.
What is that timeline, like 3 working days?
Well, I will tell you, so statute says we try to publish our agenda a week in advance. I will tell you, we knew we had recently sent a neighborhood notice out that took 8 days to get there. So we called Paul and said, we don't want to chance you not getting this. And he says, okay, send it to the business email. And so he was able to get it the same day as everybody else.
Well, just as long as the people are reaching out if they haven't received it, so they don't come to the meeting uninformed.
Oh, no, they've all been, at least it's been my experience in the last year or plus, that they come prepared. And like I said, and we, Shelley's really good about texting and confirming receipt. And I will say that in anticipation of this action today of appointing an alternate members, we've already sent them the packet for the Board of Adjustments. The members were suggesting there is an allowance in the code for a cross collateral between the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment. And because of this half year and starting this process, the 2 members being suggested for appointment sit currently on the Planning Commission. But they only vote when the chair calls for them to vote and to be a part of the conversation. It's just there as a backup.
So do we have a game plan for some recruitment?
I believe so. It's a conversation, again, to going in front of the subcommittee to start. We also like to be sure that there's different district representation. So we want to be sure that all areas of the county are represented. The reason for adding it at this point of time is we are again facing this coming week not having a quorum. We have 2 members that will be absent because of family members, and a 3rd member who must recuse himself from the conversation. And we feel that any conversation in front of the Board of Adjustments needs to have more than 2 people participating. And so with that, the Planning Commission members are somewhat familiar with what the agenda items are. And so, and then it was a matter of, we didn't want any one-time appointments, right? We want to be sure that there was a commitment for the rest of the calendar year. And it gives us time to, if there's a mechanism within the county on advertising for open positions, that we would be able to utilize that. We just have time to move that forward.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not on my radar when you don't have someone on the planning and zoning.
I actually recently have had a couple of people say, hey, if you ever have an opening on the Planning Commission, I'd really like to be a part of it. So I know that, but we've never indicated we have a need for the Board of Adjustments. But I do know we did have a vacancy at the beginning of the year, and we have no difficulties fulfilling that.
One other point of consideration, you can have up to 7 for Board of Adjustment as well. So that is a potential strategy that the board could implement. There's also no requirement for the dispersion of district coverage. That's just been like a practicality measure. From the statute itself, at least 1 member has to be from an unincorporated area, it says. Can't have any elected officials, can't have any county board members, and there must be at least 1 member overlap between the BOA and the Planning Commission. So there's different stuff we could try, and maybe that's just some additional feedback for staff from the commissioners. Like if there isn't a worry that this commissioner has 3 people from their district, and if the concern is we just have enough people to do it that are willing and engaged, that's a different strategy for us than what we're currently looking at.
Any questions or comments, sir?
So if there's 1 person gonna be gone, so you're down to 4, you will call in an alternate?
The chairman has the ability to call in an alternate. The alternate can attend every meeting and receive every board packet as it comes out. We generally know when we send out the packet, we try to do that about 10 days in advance, 7 to 10 days. We confirm with them that they'll be in attendance. So there is that time frame between the meeting and when we do the board packet. And we have a really good, as you probably know, really good relationship with our boards. So sometimes we know a month in advance. When we have the April meeting, somebody said, I'm not going to be here in May. So we already know to pull in what would be an alternate. I think the idea of a 7-member board is worth considering if you as a commissioner would consider that. There is a fiscal impact. We do pay our board members $80 a meeting. They meet once a month, and there's a little bit of change for mileage. But I think it's definitely worth a conversation if you'd like to have that.
And the last thing I'll add to that, Madam Chair, if I can, is the alternate can literally be utilized for 1 vote. So you may have your 5 regular members here, and somebody says, I need to abstain for this. The chair can designate that alternate solely for that item or that vote.
But then the alternates don't necessarily have to be at every meeting.
They don't.
So you gotta have someone, have an alternate there. So you'll have to, and what I was wondering then, is it the chair gonna call that alternate and say, are you coming to the meeting? We may need you. Or is that gonna be easy? You?
Well, I will say this is the first time we'll have an alternate. We do know in advance that we are in danger of no quorum, and the chair is aware of that, as well as members, which led to this conversation this morning. I believe the process would be to, on that day, Shelley sends out a text message as well as the email. Let me know if you're attending or not attending. We always have a really good response. And we can start the conversation at that point in time with what would the chair like to do. If you know there's a member that won't be present, there's no extra budget implication because the alternate would just be there for the conversation. It's very rare that I won't say rare, but it is uncommon for an application to be in front of the board more than a couple of meetings. Sometimes the board will say, I need more information, and there'll be a second meeting, but most of the time, decisions are made within that 30-day period.
One of the reasons why I am glad that this is under consideration is because I know in the last couple of years, we've had a couple instances where the Board of Adjustment has had just a forum. They've had 3 people making decisions on making exceptions to our code. And we all know that we often get better decisions and more robust conversation and perspective when you've got a couple more people in the room. And so just it makes it easier to make wise decisions when you have a full board.
And I think, to expound upon that, by state statute, the decisions that the Board of Adjustment makes, they don't come in front of you as a county board. The Planning Commission, they might approve something with a recommendation to send it to you, but all of those Planning Commission decisions are actually made by you as a county board. Planning Commission is just a filter. The only way that you can appeal a Board of Adjustment's decision is to take it to district court. That's the remedy. So those decisions are important, and it's like the last stop. More conversation is great.
Yeah, and we don't rubber stamp them. We don't want them to be rubber stamped. We want our board members to consider carefully. Sir.
I'm sure I'll make a motion. I would recommend Marty Pierce and Leon Schoenrock as alternative members.
All right, I have a motion.
The second by Krause.
Second by Krause. Way to catch one there, Commissioner Krause. All right, we have a motion and a second. Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, here we are. Let's see, administration update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna shorten my list a little bit. A couple of things I'll just mention. Staff has been doing an abundance of research on our solid waste fee and how we administer that in the county. I mention that now as we are kind of officially in budget season and budget mode now. And I plan to integrate that over the next couple of months via a work session for your consideration. And I wouldn't propose what that consideration is at this juncture, just that staff will be coming to you with perhaps some alternative ways of administering that process. And along that same line, staff is currently looking at some codified board procedures and operating norms to bring to you via work session in the next couple of months as well. So we're checking some of those items off of the list, and we'll get those in front of you in the near future. I was hopeful that the strategic planning document would be solidified for today. It was not, so May 19th is the next best date for that to occur. I will ask of a work session to be done as well prior to that meeting. So just so you know that May 19th, barring any exception. Filing day? Oh, you can leave it. Serious. Yes, that is filing day.
That is filing day, yes.
For our public officials, our elected officials. You probably saw somewhat of an ANC update yesterday. A lot happening in legislation, stuff starting to move, bills starting to get passed out to committees, a lot of omnibus packages, which is pretty normal, but at least on the Senate side of things, almost all good news, surprisingly so. The major things, just, I mean, in terms of county program aid, no custom county program aid, Actually some good recommendations from a human services standpoint with addressing cost shifts of HR1, addressing systems modernization, some really helpful guidance surrounding MAFTA and the whole child well-being provision. So really all good things. And on the tax bill side of things as well, we saw Waseca County included as that local sales and use tax provision as well. So that officially did get passed out of the Senate, the tax committee side of things, I should say. And although we know there will need to be a lot of collaboration between the Senate and the House. The authority structure looks a little different, or I should say the majority structure looks a little different. So there will be some back and forth, most definitely, before there is a cohesive bill that is recommended to the governor's office. But so far, good news. The only thing that we didn't see really specific is what does transportation funding look like? It's just kind of still kind of a gray area. We know there's money there, but it's not targeted really to specific things. It's just, so we'd like to see some more specificity to that for our local programming dollars that we've been able to utilize with Jim's help in the past, our townships, as well as the county. So I think I can leave it at that. Any questions for me right now that you want me to tackle?
Anything for my book? All right.
I do have
Yes.
one, and I thought it was, we keep hearing about updating our social media. I guess that's like, even Mr. Hanson today brought up, we need to update. We should really be looking at a media resource person to handle everything in the county. It seems like there's more and more and more that we have to put online to make sure that it's right. And I don't know if we can ask how we find that person or where that person would fall into within a county organization. But it seems like that's going to be the wave of the future. We really need to have somebody on board to keep us updated, both on our website and Twitter and all the other things that come into play, like the tourism thing that Mr. Hanson had. Who knows what else? It just seems like when the sheriff's office has big events or something going on, that we have one person to go to one site and it can all be taken care of. And I think we should really be pushing to find somebody as that resource person.
Do you want to speak to that, Administrator, or do you want me to?
I was waiting for you to chime in before.
Okay.
I interjected.
You are not the first person with this thought. You have expressed it very eloquently there. I know that administration has been looking at the need for a more cohesive, centralized communication plan from the county as a whole. I know Commissioner Hargett and I just attended an AMC training that included a piece on interacting with the media and communications, and we know there's a need, and I think I'm glad to hear that members of the board are receptive to thinking about what that might look like for the county and how it might benefit the county. And I think administration already has a couple ideas about how it might work, when it might work, and it's on the radar. I can say that.
Well, I'd like to see it more than just on radar. I want to see some steps being made to push it, I guess, more than anything.
I think at this point we
get a
have some.
price so we know for our budget season.
Yeah, I think at this point we have some interim plans as we've got some methods to cover the bases now, but I would agree with you that we need a more cohesive plan. And at this point, we know that if something big happens, the immediately responsibility falls on Michael's shoulders to be the spokesperson, and they pull in the chair. But we know that on a day-to-day basis, there are a ton of communication needs for our county that could be done more cohesively, better if we had staff focused on that. So I appreciate that idea and make note, administration. All right.
Note taken. So yeah, thanks for that. And ultimately, yeah, a lot of different ways we go with this conversation. The individual sitting next to me, not Commissioner Milrath, has been shouldering a lot of this burden in, because she happens to occupy a space with me and I tend to think out loud at times. And she's an easy target to just assign things to and say, what would it look like if we did this? So Buffett's very good at the design structure from flyer standpoint, media standpoint, and we've been working a lot more recently on community engagement pieces. And there's, we could identify small wins and big wins in this overall schema. Would it be great if I had a full-time public information officer to be the spokesperson for all things Waseca County? Yes and no. It's a stressor sometimes, and I should say the engagement that I do, I sometimes force upon myself because it's a necessary means of staying in the loop. But to that point, we don't want 7 different people talking to 7 different individuals. Not all of our media friends are as cogent as Deb sitting over there. But some of the small wins have been embracing, right? Just as the more takeaway, easy community engagement piece, like, hey, we're having a meeting, come attend the meeting. And then when that happens, capturing a takeaway, like the previous meeting here from end of April, and then just having 1 or 2 items of follow-up after that happens as an additional community engagement piece. Yes, we're having a meeting, and then kind of here's what happened within that meeting and some things you should take away from it. So we're already doing a lot better from a social media engagement standpoint, and that is a lot of our trafficking questions. We're getting better at the tie to the county website, having a lot of active conversations about that right now. Yes. And then the other prong to that for maybe is the internal engagement pieces, and that's where we're starting to spend some time and resources as well, and have some things planned for the not too distant future in that area as well. So I very much appreciate the want to add resources where we need to utilize them. That's awesome. And we will continue to work towards a long-term solution for that as well. But Beth has certainly proven herself more than capable in a lot of these elements to quickly design and implement and publish the engagement pieces that we thus far have needed to do.
And thanks for making it all look like it comes from one place. I appreciate that. Anything else for Michael? We've got a human resources update, and we welcomed a new employee today and got to meet her. And we've got some folks that have work anniversaries here. Joe Roker and Joe Flifflet both been with Waseca County for 10 years. And Kelly Tomford has been working with us for 5 years. So there's other anniversaries, but those are the 5s and the 0s. So thank you to all our staff every day for all the work they do to serve the people of Waseca County and make sure we're doing the processes that we are legally obligated to do and do them to the best of our abilities. All right, next on our list is commissioner reports. And we will do that because if we don't stay caught up, then we really get behind. Commissioner Harvick, can I start with you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to April 21. We have the 9:30 board meeting on the 22nd. We had meetings with Waseca for furniture. we had, three people that came and presented for our furniture soft cost going into the new building. 9 a.m. on the 27th, I met with Mr. Tomford down at the Waseca County Historical Society. We looked outside at some work that needed to be done. Forget the name of the individual we met with, but I'll figure that out. He was also the one that did the courthouse a few years ago.
Which one?
Right.
With Seth, you're talking about?
No, this was for, he came and looked at the exterior of Bailey Millard house in the.
Oh, okay, yeah, thanks.
On the 29th, I met with Jim at 8 a.m. and Michael at 8:30, and then headed off to AMC up in the cities for the Nuts and Bolts Conference. It's a very good conference. I recommend that to anyone that wants to put in that time. Came back on Friday afternoon. Yesterday morning at 9 a.m., we had a discussion for bollards at the new facility. And that brings us to today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Christopherson.
Hey, well, I got a pretty short list. We had Ben Prairie on the 21st after our last meeting. And then I had P and Z subcommittee on the 28th morning. So we had a little shot of rain, and then I ran down to Albert Lee to the Songbird Trail gathering. Commissioner Moulter was there also. And then on the 30th, I had South Country Health Alliance Compliance Committee virtual meeting. And that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Krause.
Yeah, board on the 21st, and I'll go to the 27th where we had HRC or Sparrow in the afternoon. The 28th was P and Z at 9:30 with Commissioner Christopherson. The 29th and 30th, kind of combine those days, met with Jim out at the fairground. Is that done out there? No. Okay. And land and water, P and Z all on the Janesville substation project. Just dealing with some land issues, water issues, that sort of thing as construction is going on out there. And then yesterday I did a fourth MRC legislative update in the morning. So I attended that. That brings us to today.
Thank you. Commissioner Milbright.
Welcome back to the 21st. We had board meeting. On the 22nd, I had the city EDA task force meeting. The 25th, I had coffee with the commissioner. 27th, I had a Waseca Area Foundation meeting. I did make it to Bob Meyer's retirement. I got called into work on that one. And the second, coffee with the commissioner. And I was supposed to have Arts Council meeting last night and Township meeting tonight, but as I'm on grandpa duty for the upgrades.
Gotta do that too. Thank you. Let's see, on the 21st, we had a personnel committee meeting before we had our board meeting that day. And then Min Prairie Finance and Min Prairie Board. On the 22nd, I was in with Commissioner Hargett on interviews for the furniture, additional furniture that we would need for the Judicial Center to interview folks who provide that service and help you get what you need and help you move the stuff you already got, because we got a bunch of that too. Gonna buy it all new, so that was a good process. On the 23rd, I met with Sarah Berry, out at Public Health in the morning to talk about, some public health things and get better educated on some things that affect folks in Waseca County. Then I ran over to Owatonna to the Foster Care and Adoption Conference that Min Prairie was hosting over at the Owatonna Eagles Club. That was very interesting. I had a great speaker and a book out of it and learned all kinds of things. Then I ran back here to Waseca County and we had lunch with ClearGov to learn more about what they can do for us, and also learned that one of our department heads sings that I didn't know about. That was super interesting. I was like, who knew? I'm not going to out that person at this meeting. The 24th, One Watershed, One Plan, Lisa County. Met right here. And then I signed on for the AMC federal budget update, the virtual one. On the 26th and 27th, I was down in Topeka, Kansas. 28th, Songbird Trail Commission Tour. Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission was there. It was great to see the vision that Freeborn County has for the Songbird Trail. Pretty exciting stuff. Lots of possible. They've done a lot of trail work for a long time. They're going to come back to us and ask us to do more than just a simple resolution that we're interested in the Songbird Trail. They're going to come back with some language looking for a memorandum of understanding, which gives a little more commitment, knowing that we don't have any right of way acquired or anything like that. But in order to be looked at as a regional trail, you got to really decide that you want to be regional. And so they're going to do some additional work and they'll come back to talk to us. I did get over to Bob Myers farewell. It was very, very nice. It was great to see Bob and wish him the best, and see Josh and wish him the best as he takes over. So that was good. And I think Michael made it over there too. We weren't there at the same time, but, and 29th, I did whatever darn I wanted. That was kind of fun. On the 30th, follow up with Shaq, workforce development. Oh, no, I didn't. Take that back. On the 29th, I had it up for, what you call it? Nuts, bolts, and boardrooms, AMC. That started at 1, did that on the 30th as well. That was, and at till noon on the 1st, on Friday, part of the program was to go over to the Capitol, and we got a chance to sit in the House chamber to hear from the House Chief Clerk, who's been working there for 40 some years. He knows where all the skeletons are. He knows how everything works. He does a lot of education with new House members to help them know what the etiquette process is. Super interesting to visit with him. Then we got to go over to the Supreme Court, state Supreme Court, and learn more about that process as well. And then we got to hear from a retiring legislator and a lobbyist that works with AMC. Very insightful, learned a lot. That really was an excellent training. A lot of it was super practical, like Robert's rules instead of obstacles. And just, I came away with some ideas and bent Michael's ear about it already, about possibly considering some board procedures and norms, not to make what we do here harder, but to give clarity for our process here. And particularly, it would be helpful if new board members come on so they could know what expectations are. So I'm going to I'm gonna come bug you with some of that.
Beth has already started gathering resources and putting it in the framework of her.
Meeker County has a brand new one that they shared with us at that conference, and I'd be happy to do that too. Then on Monday, we met about bollards yesterday. Who knew there was so much to know about bollards? Then I went over to Owatonna and I visited the Center for Family Unity. I handed out some flyers here for you. That's what that came from. They work with Union Prairie, and they're interested in expanding their work possibly. And so I, of course, made my promises because I can't make any promises, but I learned more about what they do and how they serve Waseca County people already. So I think it was good and got a chance to get to know their folks a little bit better. And here we are today. And happy Cinco de Mayo. And unless there's anything else.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry. I'll take it back.
I was just gonna go back to the Songbird Trail.
Yes.
And the one thing we got out of that was, the one thing I got out of it is, the commission wanted, like Commissioner Mulder said, more of a commitment from Waseca County in either the form of a JPA or a memorandum of understanding, because they don't want to donate millions of dollars to get it up to Heartland, and then we say, oh, never mind, we don't want to tackle it, So they want some, a little more teeth in our commitment to the trail.
And not just Waseca counties, but they actually requested that they reach out to the Sword County too, because if we go up 13, it's gonna have to go.
There'll be a little
There'll be a bunch of LeSueur to get to, because it doesn't become regional until it hooks up to Scott. I mean, it's regional within Freeborn County. They got all kinds of connections to other trails, but in order to make it regional for us, it needs to get up to Scott. So that's part of the vision there. So they'll be reaching out there too. Anything else? I'm going to adjourn by the power of the chairman, because I know I can do that according to Robert's rules. And you all have been so patient today. We're done. Thank you all.